On the right hand side I have older version of the implementation file of our main window, which you recall used totally hard-coded path to a JPEG image. So essentially the button would just load this image and process it to display it inside the box in our window. Now the new file did not completely dismiss this hard-coded path. It's relatively okay because it's a relative path, so we added this default path option right here. Preserve this path as something like default file. That's okay. Of course, we also added to our initializer list. We added file chooser, which is a pointer to a file chooser object, and we initialize it with null pointer. There are some minor changes in the comments here. They're absolutely not significant right here. Just we can ignore this part. Same here. Just basically there's a extra comment right here. Since this was coded live, of course it's slightly different compared to some sort of earlier version that we just downloaded. Now the biggest difference, of course, is in button click handler. So this is our normal member function. So what it used to do is just load the JPEG image and do its thing right here. This time we're working with the file chooser object, which brings up its own dialog box, and so we can examine this code. So that's the only remaining part for us to examine in the actual project view, in the source view. So I'm switching back to my project. I'm also going back to my source, Lab 7 source, and I'm going to open this implementation file here so we can examine the content of this file. So let's take a look at the new version of button show JPEG code. So for debugging purposes, we print this message in the console window, and then we say, okay, let's select, or let user to select the file. And we say, if this file chooser has never been created, so this is completely a brand new file chooser, so we check for whether the object was ever created. And we say if it hasn't been created, so this is still null pointer, we create new file chooser and we populate the path name for file chooser directory right here. So we could specify something here, but if we specify null pointer for this parameter, file chooser is taking us to the current directory. You can specify a mask or pattern to filter out files that you like. For instance, we could specify JPEG only or text only, or whatever you want to use as a pattern for choosing it. And there is an option to use here. Next parameter in this constructor is this constant that we can specify whether we want to use a single file selection or multiple file selection. So this is a single file selection, and the title for the box, you can type anything you like here. Like for instance, we can say select your image. Okay, so let's select your image, and we can try to use this title. So let's build with this little change, select your image, just to observe how it works. So when we click show JPEG, here it is, select your image. Interestingly, if we dismiss this and we say cancel, notice how we do detect that the user has canceled file selection. So let's keep this in mind so that the user can cancel, and that's another case that we need to be aware of and proceed accordingly. You see that I'm choosing to not to do anything. So the modes that are available here, you can choose single file, multiple files. You can choose to allow the user to create, to select a single file, an existing file, or specify the file that doesn't exist. This way, the file will be created, will be allowed to pass through the OK button of the dialog box. So you'll have a chance to create new file. And there's also a mode that allows to work explicitly with directories. So instead of choosing files, you can switch over to the mode using directories. So then, once the file chooser is created, or if it has been already created before this button click, in the previous click, we just display the dialog box. So file chooser opens a new window, second window, graphical interface in our application. And then the idea is that as long as file chooser is visible, obviously if they say OK or cancel, it will hide itself. And so this shown method will return false if it's closed. And until then we just wait. So wait checks the status of the visible window and keeps running inside this while loop, which allows the dialog box to interact with the user. Once they click OK or cancel, this becomes false, the window hides, and we continue. So now we keep tracing through cout what happens in this click. And we choose a default file path. I just use it to initialize the pointer to constant characters that are available from the file chooser. And the value basically, and let me highlight it. Okay, so the value, you can see that the value function inside file chooser returns the path. Basically, it's a string of characters that returns the chosen path. And if the value returns a null pointer, then we say that the user has canceled file selection, and there is nothing else that we do here. We just simply return from this button click function. So otherwise, if everything's okay, so we don't cancel, we proceed to just extract the file path. So we save this file path equals file chooser. So initially we set the default JPEG file path just to be able to initialize it. But then if the value is available, it's not a null pointer, we choose file path. Of course, it's a pointer to string of characters right here. And we proceed to do exactly what we did before. So we load image, we resize the image to fit in the width and the height of our box to display this image. So basically, of course, we're just going to do the same exact thing to display the image, and in the end we have to tell the window to redraw its content to guarantee that the new image is shown. So this is it, and these are sample outputs right here. If you can see, when I was testing it, I captured the sample output, and the rest of this implementation is very much similar to what we had before, except that we initialize the file chooser pointer in the constructor. So of course, every time something new happens in the data member section of our class, we must revisit our constructors and update them to make sure that we do something predictable with the initialization of these new data members. So this concludes this laboratory exercise, and once again this is a self-learning lab and there are no files to submit. However, as we now getting into these stages that we move from one laboratory exercise to another and we keep copying them to keep keep adding new updates, adding new code, new functionality, I strongly recommend that before you exit your lab projects that you say build, clean your solution. Okay, just that's pretty standard thing to do, because right now I'm not using this program. I just want to get rid of all the prior build results. Then I normally like to close all tabs. Okay, just close everything and keep it clean like this. If I reopen this project, that's the picture that I like about it. There is nothing unfinished about this project. It serves its goal. We had to demonstrate this functionality, and we've done that. So then I say File, Close Solution, and after that, if I want to clone it, or before I make a copy of it, I would normally go to the directory that corresponds to this specific laboratory exercise, and I delete .vs and .debug. You can select them and hit delete key, or if you want to select them permanently, just be careful about this, but if you want to select them permanently, pressing Shift Delete will allow you to delete these files permanently and not to place these subfolders in a recycle bin. I prefer not to drop everything into my recycle bin, but rather just some things can be permanently deleted. So then I say, oh, yes, okay, let's delete this. And if next time I need to make a copy, I'm ready to just say copy and then paste directly here. Okay, so now this lab is ready for the next step to be used in next project that we're going to try in our sequence of exercises.